So in this module, you are going to be learning about what is and is not homeschooling. Now, why would that be important? Why is that important to consider at this time? Well, it has been my experience that many new homeschoolers begin the journey with no idea of what is homeschooling. They haven't really taken time to think about it. They kind of have this view that purchasing curriculum right away and beginning in August sets you up for success. Not really, not really. So what I want to do in this module, in these set of videos, is to explain what is and what is not homeschooling. That way, you get your journey started off on the right foot, so to speak. Okay, here's another reason to understand what is and what is not homeschooling. And that is the first time you have that lack of confidence. You probably already have it right now when it comes to choosing curriculum. Perhaps you have critics of your choice already, that they are already questioning you about why you're homeschooling. So it's very important that you build this foundation first. It's not going to take long to go through these set of videos because I know there's some other questions you have. But I promise you, if you take time to go through these videos, your foundation will be much firmer because you will build it based on knowledge. Like I said, about 3 months into the homeschool journey, that's been my experience. That the homeschool honeymoon, as I call it, is over. All the excitement has waned. You know, the schedule has kicked in. The weight of running a household, children, perhaps even working, that's all on your shoulders now. It can be quite stressful. So having a realistic view of what it is and also understanding the positive aspects of it will allow you to form your homeschool journey with the right values and on the right foundation. Okay, I wrote me some notes off here on the side because I like to talk a lot and I have a lot to tell you always in every module, but I like to keep it to a few points so that you don't walk away overwhelmed and just have shorter videos, perhaps more of them is my goal. Okay, so let's define what is homeschooling. Okay, here it is. The main difference between public school and homeschooling is that one is parent-led and the other is not. That's it. That's it. Now you may think, I already know that. Maybe, but do you really grasp the significance of it? And this is why. There's many types of approaches to use in homeschool. There's many types of curriculum. Back when I first started, there weren't as many public school at home curriculum options that are free. Now there's many public school onlines. They used to not call themselves public school onlines. They used to say, oh, we're private school, oh, we're homeschooling. But now so many of them in their advertising say, we're a public school at home. Okay, and there's nothing that gets homeschoolers perhaps arguing more about what is and what is not homeschooling than it is public school at home options. You may need a public school at home option. Now, I wouldn't suggest that as your first option because you haven't really left the public school approach. You just switched the seat where your kid's learning. Does that make sense? If it's not working for your kid now, then using the same approach in public school is not going to work at home. But that's not my job. That's your job as the new teacher to decide what will work for your family. I simply want to coach you through the options. So that's what you need to remember. The main difference is it's parent-led at homeschool. That's the common thread. Now, what do I mean by parent-led? It doesn't mean you have to teach every class. Oh, no, I didn't, and I haven't. There's just some subjects I don't like, some subjects I'm weak in. It's okay. You don't have to know everything. You just need to know how to find everything you want to teach. Some subjects you'll want to teach one-on-one that are important to you. Other subjects you may not want to. You will want to outsource them, whether it's a co-op, whether it's online, a textbook, private tutor. I even have had a college kid tutor. You can do that. There's so many resources that you can use. But the main point I want you to understand, the main point between public school at home or homeschooling, or what is homeschooling, what is not, is that the parent is the one that always stays in charge. Once you abdicate and give over that power to someone else, that's it. You have no say. You have no say in what they do. And a lot more public school at home curriculum providers have got a lot more flexible about giving the parents more say. Okay, but I don't even like that term, giving the parents. I want full say, full control. Okay, that brings me to my next point about what is homeschooling. It's freedom. A lot of new homeschoolers don't really appreciate that point at first. Matter of fact, it feels a little uncomfortable to kind of say, where do I start? You know, what's the must-haves I need to do? There's not any. Oh yes, when we get to the curriculum, I will guide you. I will give you the framework of what's important from pre-K to high school, even getting them ready for college. But the truth of it is, a lot of new homeschoolers start, it just feels a little uncomfortable. They want somebody telling them what to do. Even the most competent of us feel that way. We're like, what's a checklist? Can I check off something that they need to learn? We just want something to tell us what to do. But that's the very thing that can choke you as you continue your journey. So right now, understand that homeschooling is about freedom. It doesn't mean going all willy-nilly. If you know, some people do go willy-nilly. I respect that. It's fine. It's their choice, their kids, their homeschool. Unless you live in a state that has a little bit more strict record keeping and having to answer to them. Some states are like that. Not all states. A majority of the states, matter of fact, have relaxed laws. Okay, so it's parent-led. It's freedom. And let me tell you, once you tap into that freedom and pursue your kids' passions and their strengths and shore up their weaknesses, it feels really good to have the freedom, not to just choose curriculum, but the routine, the approach, the classes. It very much is a unique education to each child. And it's what it is, it's leaving a cookie cutter, if you will, robot type of education for the masses. There's nothing more elite than homeschooling when it comes to a private education. Nothing, because it's strictly suited to each child, their strengths and their weaknesses and their passions. Okay, here's the other thing a lot of new homeschoolers don't fully appreciate, because they want to jump in. Let me pick curriculum. I'm going to start in August. Let's go. Or September. I'm ready. No. Here's the other thing about homeschooling. It is a lifestyle. That's something I didn't appreciate about in the beginning. I didn't really understand what that meant. What it means is that the lines between living and learning, they don't stay so straight anymore once you school longer. They become blurred and they cross over and they intersect. And that is how you want homeschooling to do. Most homeschoolers you talk to, it takes over a majority of their life. It's because it's their life. Sure, in the beginning, I found it hard to set aside time to formally homeschool. When I mean formally, I mean we had to actually sit down and do some math, sit down and do some writing. But once I learned that homeschooling has to come first, it was a way more relaxed lifestyle, because what you're doing is throughout the day, you're taking advantage of teachable moments for your child. Some things you won't even be able to check off a curriculum checklist. I know sometimes when I first started, my husband would come home and say, "What did you do today?" Well, I always felt like it was, what did we do with the curriculum? You know, I never thought about, well, let's see, I taught them all how to pick up after themselves. I taught them how to make breakfast. I didn't tolerate them speaking to me disrespectful. I set boundaries for this, accountability for this. All of that is part of homeschooling. Sometimes we just don't have a curriculum checkoff list. We can say, check, check. Some days it's more like that. But then again, you're addressing those needs immediately. So it's really educating, like Sally Clarkson said, the whole child, all parts of the child. I really love that. It's not just curriculum. We're not just wearing the teacher hat. So that's what homeschooling is. It's every day there's something we're addressing. It could be curriculum. It could be things we're seeing. It may be things other people cannot see. But now, if we always judged it the way the educational world judged it, by benchmarks and standards and grades, we would think we wouldn't be doing anything. Okay? Even if you have to journal your first year, I suggest you do that to see exactly each day what you addressed and what you came up with or what you had to deal with. Okay, here's the other thing about what is homeschooling. It's setting goals, realistic goals this first year. It's meeting those goals. It's having your top few goals in mind. Now, I'm going to explain this in a little more because I want to move in because it really overlaps with the second part of this and what is not homeschooling. Sometimes it's better to understand what something is when you explain what it is not, okay? So it's not a cure-all. It's not a cure-all. Now, I'm going to go just a little bit off course here and share personal experience. Many years ago, I was asked to testify in court. Some of you may know I have a legal background. I was asked to testify in court about homeschooling. The judge didn't know the homeschooling laws. The attorneys didn't know the homeschooling laws. And they asked me would I come to court and do it. Absolutely. I didn't mind informing anybody in my state about the homeschooling laws because I know them. But what was so sad about the situation was that these two young people that they were going to homeschool had gotten into trouble, and the little girl was 15 and was expecting a child. Now, they started homeschooling for the wrong reasons. That's not the typical homeschooler, although homeschooling does work for a child that's in need or someone that needs those particular circumstances. But what's the point to what I'm saying? Here's the point. That if there was problems before addressing discipline, behavior, they don't go away when you start homeschooling. It's not a cure-all. Matter of fact, I know more people that have more problems with it because every day they're with their child now. Does that make sense? Every day they're addressing those needs, so it becomes harder. If that's the case, I always encourage those moms to put their school a little bit on autopilot until you address with the emotional well-being of the child, because isn't that what's most important? But that's the point I'm making. It's not going to cure everything. It certainly will help. But if a child was having problems before, they're discipline problems, not homeschooling problems. They are going to have those problems when they start homeschooling until they're addressed. So there are two sets of problems here. There's homeschooling and then discipline problems. And that can be a very touchy subject when you're talking to homeschoolers, because they may say, well, homeschooling's not working for us. And then they address tantrums or behavior problems or disrespect or drugs or any of those other things. And then, that's where it's really hard, that we just have to mind our own business, encourage other homeschool moms to handle the situation in their household the best that they can and support them, because homeschooling is hard enough without having those types of problems. So I just want to give you a big glimpse of what has worked for me and what has been my experience in the past 24 years or so. So don't think it's a cure-all, but it absolutely will help your situation, especially if a child has been bullied, if they have special needs. It absolutely will make everything better because, like I explained before, it is individual schooling. It is private schooling. It is the best approach because you can tailor everything to your child's needs. Okay, here's the next point I want to make about what is not homeschooling. What is not homeschooling is also appreciating there's not one approach. There's not one have to do way. Homeschooling has many different approaches. What is a homeschooling approach? It is the way a child learns best. It's the way you teach best. In public school, there's only one approach, really. Now, some private schools have different approaches and they're trying. But in public school, it really is one approach, and that is using a box curriculum, worksheet method, drill, memorization, testing, and then all of a sudden a child's supposed to get it. Homeschooling is not that way. There's several different approaches, and we change them based on a child's needs or based on what your goals are, which is back to what I was talking about. Some families have goals of their kids getting into college. Some families, they say, okay, we just want to graduate high school and he wants to start a career. He's on a career track. He's on a college track. Some say we don't want any of that. He doesn't know what he wants to do. We just want to have a solid high school education. Others have a more sciencey background, some more math, some more musically inclined, some more nature-minded. These are all okay choices in the homeschool world. It's your kids, your way, your school. And that's what I want you to remember when it comes to choosing an approach when we talk about that in another module. Okay, so here's the thing about remembering about what is and what is not homeschooling. It's also, and I wrote it down right here just because I carefully chose my words and I want to read it straight from my outline. And here's what homeschooling is and what it means to do. It means to switch from a public school driven approach to family centered. That makes sense, doesn't it? Now think about that. Public school driven. How do we switch from that? Well, we don't say, my child's in 4th grade. That means next year he'll be 5th grade. I need to pick a 5th grade curriculum out. Nope. Nope. That's public school driven. What you want to do is say, you know what? Let me take a little bit of time and assess him. Is he above grade level in math? And me having him do a 5th grade math will make him sigh and build a resistant learner? Or does he need to do math 4th grade again to build his skills and perhaps he's on a higher level of reading or writing? That's the beauty of homeschool. We adjust levels. That's why sometimes I don't like a boxed curriculum, which is one grade level for all subjects. That's the term in the homeschool world. Boxed curriculum means it's one grade level, all subjects. And guess what? Most of us don't come that way. We have strengths in these areas and weaknesses in these others. And that's the beauty. That's why you switch to family-centered. Who cares what 30 other kids in a class knows? You're only worried about your 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, or even 12 kids. 8. We don't need to find out what everyone else in the world knows or learns. We only need to find out where the strengths and weaknesses of our kids, our family. Where do we begin with them? So what we would do is we take a little bit longer time talking to them, and I have tips on how to do that too. That's coming up in another module, another video. But I just wanted to give you an example of what that means. It also means we don't put pressure on ourselves to start by August 18th because the school district in our city starts by August 18th. My beginning of my year was always in January because it worked better for my family. It was past tax season when I ran our business with my husband. It was a lot better time to start my year. I didn't care when public school starts, unless, again, you live in a state that requires you to start in a specific month. Most of us don't have to do that. The point is you have time to make these choices. Find out about your kids that you're going to be teaching. What are their strengths, their weaknesses? Who are they as a person? What do they want to study? How can you include them in the learning process? It makes it so much more easier. And they become very passionate learners, even up until high school and to college. That's what that means. That is homeschooling. It's very unique. And like anything else homemade and use whole organic ingredients, it tastes pretty good when you do it yourself. Okay, here's one more thing I want to explain about what is not homeschooling. And that is the mentality that I'll just give this a year and we'll see how it goes. If I haven't heard that once, I could be rich on how many times I've heard that from new homeschoolers. Let me tell you what I think about that. Let me tell you what has been my experience. It doesn't work. And this is why. There's nothing wrong with a trial period. Nothing wrong with that. But that puts a lot of stress on you and your children to perform. If we don't see this drastic change, this turnaround in these many months, this isn't working for us. When really it takes more than a year. It takes actually a couple of years. The first year, I will tell you this, you can see a lot of improvement and change. Everyone's overall health, mental, physical, what they like studying, the calmness, the being relaxed in their household. But when you start setting your homeschool up with, I'll give it a try, I'll give you a year, it's too hard. Sure, if you didn't do anything except sit around all day long, okay, maybe put that guideline on yourself. But guess what? That's never the case. Most of the time, as homeschool moms, we are very conscientious about our kids. We want the best for them. We know their future is in our hands. We think, oh, I'm going to ruin this child. That's how I felt. I worried myself to death, half to death over it. Okay, it's okay. It's normal. Of course, it's easy for me to say, don't worry about it, but I'm not going to tell you that. It's okay to worry because it shows you're conscientious. I don't want you to overly worry. I don't want you to homeschool with fear because that's paralyzing. You can't move forward. I want to empower you that you can do this, but don't set those guidelines up for yourself. As long as you're making progress, which is why I said earlier, even if you journal, you can see the progress you're making, not just curriculum advancement, where there were some perhaps gaps or holes in their academic performance, but also correcting behavior, addressing study skills, responsibility, accountability, all these other things that we want for our children to grow up to be happy and successful adults. Those other things we have to put into the day, which are very stressful at times. Okay, so that's what I wanted you to understand about what is and what is not homeschooling in this module.